Good morning, everyone. It is Friday. Time for a demo. So I get questions quite often about actually routing signs out of plywood, and my general answer is I just don't do it. We did it way back in the 70s and 80s, and there was a lot of issues with it. One of the ones was it was kind of tough on router bits, but we were using mostly steel bits back then. So carbide bits, which everything we do now is carbide, should be okay with plywood in most cases. The other one was voids within the plywood itself, and cheap plywood will have like empty spots in there, and so that can really be a problem if it's out in the middle of a piece and you got a letter that chips off because there's a void underneath there. However, I'm going to do a demo carving plywood today. Now, this is a little bit different type of plywood. This is stuff that actually we use, and we cut wooden letters and numbers out of it for the other half of our business, which really has nothing to do with this. But I have quite a bit of this stuff. This is oak-veneered MDF, so it's solid MDF core on here. So, like I say, this is a real thin oak veneer. Now, one of the other issues with carving plywood, not necessarily on the carving, but on the sanding side, is that if you sand too deep and you sand through that veneer, then all of a sudden, on this particular case, you run into MDF. And I'll show you that here in a little while. But anyway, so I'm going to do a little sample carving on both sides of this. But first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put an edge on this, and I'll show you how I do that. So here is, it basically is our 618 router, and the custom base plate that we make for it almost makes it like a little router table, honestly. So it makes it really nice. I would much rather put an edge on this thing with it upside down, especially being a small piece. Now, here is the kicker for me is you guys know that most of the time I never wear a mask. It's just, and I get grief on it all the time. However, with MDF, I'm always going to wear a mask with MDF. From personal experience, I didn't one time, and it was a rough night for me. I kind of lost all my food that I had for a week. Anyway, it's I won't go into details, but I'm always going to wear a mask now. So this is just a little mask that we got. I think we bought this off of Amazon, didn't we? And actually, we on video 241, we have a link to where you can get these. Anyway, it's kind of a cool little mask. A lot of the woodworkers use them. So I'm hoping you guys can hear me. So here's what I'm going to do here. I am just going to do an edge, just a chamfered edge on here. I've already got the depth set. So generally when I do this too, I like to wear gloves. Just something that I feel a little bit more comfortable when I've got gloves on.
And which bit are you using? 45?
This is, thank you, good question. 45-degree chamfer bit with a bearing on it. They're just a standard bit that we have on our website. All right, here we go. There we go. Huh? This way?
Well, so I can see it, yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a nice chamfer on both sides. Because I'm going to carve on both sides of this. So what we're going to do now is just we're going to do, we'll be back in just a second. We'll do some layout. All right, so I'm just going to lay out, I'm just going to do an O here. Actually, it's a 0. Using the primer And again, I've got the edge all chamfered. I'm just going to be real careful and not spray this too heavy. I'm going to do the same thing on both sides. I'm going to carve one inset and one outset. The only reason I'm tipping it up like that is so air can get to the bottom side, so this thing can dry in a fairly timely manner, even though we are colder than heck out here in Arizona today. All right, so as soon as this dries, guys, we'll be right back and we'll carve these. Okay, guys, so here's something else I'm going to do a little bit different. I'm actually going to cut this one inset, and normally speaking, I would use a 60-degree bit, and I certainly could use a 60-degree bit. But the bigger the letters, the more options you really have. There's tons of room in here. So I'm actually going to cut this with the 90-degree, which is what I normally use just for my my cleanup or my background. But anyway, so again, you know, everything has variables to it. So if you've got big, huge inset letters, you can cut them with the 90-degree. So we're going to put our mask on and we're going to cut this thing inset. Got the cheaters going on here. Now the thing about this MDF, guys, is it really, huh? Do I look kind of odd? The thing about this MDF is it really makes a lot of really super fine dust. And you'll see that here in just a second. One of the reasons we have our masks on. So see how fine that dust is, guys? It just is, it's different than normal sawdust. Now I'm going to go around and I'm going to touch that up again. You saw that, that I went a little bit deeper when I did this part here. The reason being is that that bit actually could be sharper. It was a little bit dull, and that's why it's kind of fraying up like this. And so that was causing my router base to be a little bit higher or up, and so I wasn't getting quite as deep as I wanted to. So now I'm going to go actually all the way around that thing again, kind of straighten it up. that's the way it looks on that. So we're going to turn it over and we're going to do the other one outset. Alright guys, I've changed the router bit and now I'm using a profile bit. Now this is one that I've had for quite a while. I've sharpened it a bunch of times so it cuts kind of fat, which is perfect for big outset letters. So I got my mask on, Vic's got her mask on. Let's get after it. Oops, that's too deep. Not too bad. Actually, I want to trim that up a little bit. It creates so much sawdust that that sometimes you lose your line a little bit. Okay. We're going to put the cleanup bit and we'll be right back. Okay, so now I have my 90-degree bit. That's the same one I had in earlier for doing the inset on the other side. I've got that in there. Let's do a cloud around this thing. I'm going to draw it a little bit. Normally I don't do this, but being as it's kind of a cloud around one letter, I'd like these kind of to be the same. Is that, yeah, that's right. this. We're going to use the same primer that we used before. See if I can do this without spraying myself black. I'm just going to spray the actual letter itself. Again, really light spray, you guys. Don't pool that stuff on there. You won't like the results if you do. All right, we're going to let that dry. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back. So here is the, this isn't quite dry yet, but fortunately, earlier today, I had already done this. So like a cooking show,
Voila.
we are already done. So this is what it looks like. Now, here's the deal on this. Let me see. Let's show the inset first. I'm going to give you my impressions of this stuff. The positives is it comes in 4x8 sheets. It's a little pricey, but not that expensive. I don't even know what we paid for it. It carves very consistent. It's not. It's just solid all the way through. What's the matter? Too much dust?
Yeah.
It actually, I think it would look nice with a finish on it. I didn't put a finish on it here, but I think it would look nice. This is oak. This is a cabinet grade plywood, by the way. So I'm sure you can get cabinet grade plywood in all different kinds of varieties and species. This happens to be oak. On the outset side, it carved really well. Now, I told you earlier, I showed you what happened if you sanded through too much. Check out that area right there. The oak is gone, and I just dipped that sander a little too much. I've sanded these with a belt sander. My normal 40 grit to start, took off most of it, and then I used my 175, just my normal thing, and I just went down a little bit too deep on that. But if you look at this board again, and if you look at the edge, you can see, you might be able to see, that veneer is down.
No, we're good. Go ahead.
That veneer is super, super thin. Now, you might be able to get plywoods that's got a thicker veneer on it. So, I like it. You know, those are the positives. The negatives is the dust. With the MDF core, the dust is just...
anybody around you.
It is incredible. I mean, it's all over me. We kind of wiped off my head, but I mean, it literally gets everywhere. So it seems like it's so much more fine than a regular wood sawdust, and it happens to be high static electricity out here today. So I think the static electricity picks it up, and I had to wipe my lenses off many times. I don't know if you guys could see that, because the static electricity, because the dust is so light, it's not near as heavy as regular sawdust off of a cedar or a pine board. So there's no voids. That's a good thing. The sanding, that's where you got to be really careful. And I don't necessarily like oak anyway. Even solid oak all the way through, it's not my favorite. But anyway, you know, if you want to use this stuff, you just want to be careful. Obviously, not much issue with bleeding. I don't see any sign of bleeding whatsoever. I didn't use sanding sealer. Didn't need to. Didn't see any sign of bleeding. So that's about it, guys. I hope that is helpful for you. If you want to use this stuff, you know, just definitely wear a mask. Thanks again for watching and all the support. We really, if you're watching this for the first time, we'd love for you to subscribe if you found this helpful, and be sure and click that little bell icon so you get notifications. If you don't, when we post a new video, if you don't get an email on it, you probably haven't clicked that little bell icon. Also, please give us a like and a share on Facebook, Instagram, Make a Wood Sign on Instagram. All the links are down below. If you have any questions on this, please don't leave me a message on Facebook. Email me directly, eric@makeawoodsign.com. Again, the links are below, and I answer all the emails. And thanks a bunch for all the comments, all the love, and all the support. We really appreciate it. That is about it, you guys. So coming up is, as I promised, is a story from my dad. So check it out. I think you'll like it. Bye. Hey folks, you know what? We're just, it's the last day of Ryan's visit, and we're just sitting here at the table and kind of just talking and having a good time. And Ryan brought up actually a question that I thought may be some interest to you guys. I was just stumbling over my words there. So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to feed Ryan. Ryan, what was you asking your grandfather?
We were talking, and I...
Hand down.
Oh. You gotta read the sign language.
Yeah.
We were talking to Grandpa and telling him that, I, as much as I want my own business and I started and everything, I still have a full-time job. And I told him it made me feel a little better knowing that he didn't actually start his sign business till he was 35, which is a few years younger than I am now. And he was telling me about when you started
You're a few
it.
years younger than
Few years younger than you are
Yeah,
now?
I'm a few years younger than he was when he
Okay.
started.
Good.
Yeah.
That's the way it
Yeah.
goes. Yeah.
Well, and I thought, I can remember when I was little, my brother and I would sit around and listen to my father and my grandfather talk about things that they did. And the only record of those now are my memories. And I think putting some of my memories on film for my kids, my grandkids, my great-grandkids, 30 or 40 years from now, which, by the way, 30 or 40 years sounds like a long time, but it goes by that fast. So having some record of some of my recollections seems to me to be, with today's technology, seems to me to be a pretty good idea. It's not my idea, but it's a pretty good idea. Pretty good idea at that. Sometimes, while my memory is still clear and some of the things that I remember, some of them may not be fit for repeating, but there's a lot of them that were experiences that I had or things that I saw happen that some of my descendants, unless I leave some sort of a message, they may never know. There's nice things about picture albums, but it's not quite the same as a story type thing. So when they started talking about story time with old Dave, I thought, sure, what the heck, I might as well do it. So
Okay. One of my favorite stories that I just found out, in fact, you just found out, last year?
Yeah.
For when they came down up to California, is that Grandpa actually was enlisted to go into the Korean War, but something happened.
yeah, I kind of have to be careful about this. A good friend of mine and I, Bob Krebs, he's gone now, but we went down and enlisted in the service. We decided we wanted to go fight in the war, and just for the hell of it, just because we wanted to fight, I guess. We were in fights every weekend anyway. So.
Might as well fight for a cause.
Might as well get paid while you're doing it,
So
right?
we were on the road at the time.
How old were you?
And what?
How old were you?
I was 17,
Okay.
so it's been a lot of years ago. But I was, we were kind of on the road, and after we went down and enlisted, we went down and got drunk. we went into a bar and got drunk.
Celebrate.
And,
Why not?
and one thing led to another, and Bob, being the way he was, he started hitting on some guy's gal, and the guy got upset about it, and we got into a fight, and we were holding our own pretty good. There was 4 or 5 guys we were fighting, and finally the cops came, and they arrested us, and so we went to jail. And
Where was this at? What town was this?
this was a little town in Idaho. I won't name the name of the town, but it was a little town in Idaho, outside of Boise. It wasn't in Boise. It was just a small town. And so their jail was sort of like it was a stick house. It wasn't a brick building or anything. It was a stick house, a stick building. They just had bars inserted, made and welded and inserted in the windows and, as a frame. And Bob and I, being the way we were, I looked out the window of the little room cell that we were in, and right next to it, literally right next to it, where I could reach through, I could open the window, but there were bars there. There was a fire truck. And so this little town had a combination jail and firehouse for the parking for their fire truck, and right on the side of the fire truck was a fire axe. And it just happened that I could reach out that window and squeeze out, and I reached out and got that fire axe. And I thought, well, I've got the fire axe. I believe I can probably pry these bars off this window. So that's what I did. I took the fire axe, and fire axe, as you may or may not know, has got a blade on one end and it's got a point on the other. Yeah. So we used that fire axe and we pried the bars off of that window. We were going to steal that fire truck, but there was no keys in it. And so we left that little jail, and we headed for Boise. And the next morning, it turned out that in order for us to go into the service, we would have had to go back to that little town. See, we were never sworn in. We enlisted, but we were never sworn in. So we weren't legally obligated to go. We were going to go down the next morning and get sworn in. We decided, because of what we did, if we went back to that little town to get sworn in, we probably would get picked up for breaking jail. So we decided to get out of there and go back to Oregon, which is what we did. And that was just that's one of the memories I have of my childhood when I was growing up. Wow. I don't expect my kids ever to go through anything like that, but it was.
So don't try this at home.
Yeah, it was an interesting memory, and for my kids and my descendants, Grandpa broke jail one time, and that's a little story for you.
I hope you like that story with me and Dad and Ryan. We've got actually a couple more, and boy, he has got some stories. So
we had to stop him from going.
Yeah, we had to tame him down, but he's got so many stories. And so let us know what you guys think about those. We're probably going to keep doing them whether you like them or not. Honestly, I'm being honest, because to be honest, I'm being selfish, because I really want as much as my dad on camera for our grandkids and great grandkids and our great grandkids. I really want as much of him on video as I can possibly get, and it's kind of tough to get him in front of the camera, but telling stories, he seems to kind of like that. So hope you guys like that. You'll see more in the future. Thanks guys, have a great one. Bye bye.